And well, earlier we spoke to some aviation experts, listening to what they had to say on this very unfortunate Air India plane crash.
So it's very difficult to say. The airline is, just going for bad luck, because there was no reason at all for 787 Dreamliner, which had a good record, to crash. We have no idea why it's happened. And of course, we're just hearing about the rescue teams there. They're trying to salvage everything. And we have no idea whether the black box has been found, but it should be not very difficult to find the black box, because it's not a hill area, it's just a residential area where it crashed. So they should be able to locate the black box. Then after that, the inquiry will reveal why this took place. In any case, all I can say is it's extremely, extremely sad that this had to happen.
When aircraft is coming from landing after a long flight, so normally the fuel level in the aircraft is not so much. So if something like this happens, then fire is not so major. Okay, but since this aircraft was going for a takeoff and it had just climbed 600 feet, it was with the full fuel because flight was for London. So with so much of fuel, when the aircraft crashes and it catches fire, which is very natural. So the extent of fire becomes much larger, and consequently the damage to the aircraft and also to the injury and survival chance of the passengers also becomes very difficult to ascertain.
Well, earlier on the broadcast, we spoke to Captain Amit Singh, who is an aviation expert, former head airline flight operation and safety founder, Safety Matters Foundation. Listen in to what he had to say on this.
The images that we see, the aircraft nose going high, which means the aircraft piloted by the captain is desperately trying to keep the aircraft airborne, while there is something which is putting the aircraft down, which means the wings are not generating enough lift. You can see the flaps, which are supposed to be extended, are not extended. It's difficult to make out, but only the investigation or the initial investigation can tell us the number of reasons where in the past errors have been made and accidents have happened. If we start from the ground, the aircraft loading, was the aircraft loaded correctly? Was there a loading issue? Aircraft loaded more than the required or what the pilot was aware of? Did the pilot enter the weight correctly in the flight management system? Were the speeds accurate? There is always tolerance in the system. So even if there is a slight error, the system will absorb those errors. But this is a gross error which has happened somewhere. And it could be a combination of errors which usually lead to an accident. So this is the most critical phase of the flight, the takeoff, and every pilot is trained for that. And the aircraft is completely flyable with one engine failure, which means 50% loss of thrust. But with both engines failed, because Ahmedabad, as it is, has a bird issue. There are a lot of birds around the airfield because of number of reasons, because of we have the dumping grounds, sanitation issues. So the birds are attracted around the airport. So there have been cases in the past, number of cases. And in fact, India, the bird hits have continued to rise every year. So that is a very big issue in terms of safety. Like I said, there could be issues with the takeoff performance. There have been errors in computing the speeds or entering the speeds, but those errors have been absorbed by the aircraft. The aircrafts are quite sturdy in that sense. Here, there is clearly an issue of engine thrust, because if there's a wrong speed issue, the pilots they have an option to give maximum thrust. So maximum thrust caters for all eventuality. With two engines running, the aircraft performance is not an issue. With single engine, it becomes an issue, and it could be compounded with another technical failure. The images are not clear, but I would like to see the image of the wing. From what I see from far, the flaps, which are supposed to be extended at takeoff, seems to be retracted. For what caused that retraction is very, I don't know. at that low altitude, what could be the reason that flap was retracted? That is a point of concern, an area which should be looked into. But the investigation will look at right from the training of the pilots, their thing, the fatigue, and the numbers which they had. All those things they will look at. I hope they look at it.
Well, we also spoke to Captain Ehsan Khalid, who is a veteran Indian Air Force pilot, ex-airline captain instructor and examiner aviation expert with over 40 years of experience. Listen into what he had to say on the reasons and the possibilities of why this Air India flight crashed.
Mayday means the pilot declares that there is danger to life on board or the aircraft. That means there is a catastrophic failure. There is a condition that makes the aircraft really into danger zone. So that means pilot had correctly identified that an incident has occurred that now reduces the safety margin of the aircraft. The second thing is that what happens in the cockpit. Let's say that there is an engine failure. Then normal thing is that positive rate. That means the aircraft is climbing gear up. So the first action in case of an engine failure is to select the gear up, and that happens in first maybe 50 to 100 feet. And thereafter, the pilot in command or the person who is handling the control, will continue to fly the aircraft to something like 400 feet, at which he will now take the aircraft into a different configuration. Configuration means change the flap of the aircraft. 400 feet or above. In this case, the mayday has come. That means there is a loss of power. There is, or whatever condition that has existed inside the aircraft that pilots noticed. But it continued to fly with the landing gear down. And thereafter, it continued to pitch up towards controlling of the aircraft, and then it goes to hit the ground in almost wings level condition.